It has wonders that make us awestruck as they happen, and there are also mysteries that are in the confines of the realm that make you wonder how they actually happen. Some are made when hard lines in the world are formed, others are mysteries of the land that just don't seem quite right, and yet there they are there. But what are these spots that have curious looks or feelings when you gaze upon them? Allow us to show you 6 places where the earth acts mysteriously. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 6. The mixing of the oceans. The world has 7 oceans at present, and each one is their own base of life, tides, currents, and places to go. But what a question that many ask is, what happens when the edges of these oceans clash together? Or do they even clash at all? Now you might think that because it's all water that they just flow into one another with no issue or barrier or edge. But that's not exactly the case, because you honestly can see at times when the oceans converge and a hard line is created as a result. A great example of this is what happens between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Do you see how different they are in their looks? That's not what you would expect from it, right? So to answer the question that is popping into your head right now, the reason this can happen is because of salinity. Salinity is literally about the amount of salt that is dissolved within a body of water. That is why oceans are known as saltwater bodies, and rivers for the most part are freshwater, because they don't have as much salt in them and thus are safer to drink. Now, due to various factors, each body of water has a different level of salinity, amongst other things of course. So when you put very different bodies of water against one another, they don't mix. Now, just to be clear, there are multiple places like this all over the world. A fun fact about this is that the legendary ocean documentary maker Jacques Cousteau was the person to discover this border between the 2 oceans. These haloclines or oceanclines are the clearest way of noticing that the oceans, for one reason or another, aren't mixing. People for many years wondered how this was possible, and certain myths were created as a result. But it's honestly just about the salinity of the water itself. But you might be wondering, just how salty does it have to be to make one of these haloclines? Well, as noted, it has to do with salinity, but to be more specific, you have to make it so that the water is at least 5 times saltier than the ocean that is clashing up against it. So when you see this kind of thing happen in an ocean near you, you can explain to people why it happens. Congrats! Number 5. How things live in the depths of the ocean. The oceans of our planet are something that many seek to roam around in and discover everything that it has to offer. But obviously that's not an easy thing given how big and vast they are. In fact, the ocean in many ways is just another world. And the deeper you go down, the stranger and more mysterious it gets. By that we mean that the pressure of the ocean gets so great that if any human dared to go down there, they would be crushed like a tin can. Plus, the further down you go, the less and less light of the sun reaches until eventually you're in a pitch black void that is well and truly freezing. Now you would think that in such a place, life couldn't flourish in any way, but that is incorrect in a variety of ways. In fact, scientists over the last many decades have been stunned to find all sorts of animals of various sizes and complexities, and they are all living at the very depths of the ocean, and it's hard to understand why. There are even cases of simple plant-like organisms that live near geothermal vents and grow via photosynthesis, even though there is no light. But how are they able to do this when they're able to live down there at all, and how long have they been down there? Well, all of that is a mystery that is asked to this very day. And at present, there is no other answer than they just do. But we'll keep looking for answers because there are truly a lot of depths left to be explored in the ocean. Number 4. Breathing Earth. In Quebec, a very unusual sighting was found via a hiker. He found a spot of Earth that looked like it was actually breathing. By breathing, we refer to how there was a rhythmic flow of the Earth going up and down in a certain spot. Definitely not something you would expect to see on a hike. The clip went viral on the internet and many explanations were given, but one by one, those explanations were shot down by various evidence. So, how did it happen? Well, as scientists would later realize, it was a case of the Earth just shifting violently in place, which may sound odd, but there were multiple factors that helped deliver this effect. The key here is the trees and the wind. If you look at the clip showing the breathing Earth and focus on the trees, you'll notice that the wind is blowing very heavily there. Experts confirm that the kind of trees in the video are known to have very long roots, ones that expand in all directions, including under the Earth where the pulsating happened. When the wind blew on these trees, it made the roots move and thus raised the Earth to look like it was breathing. Be sure to look out for this in your local area if you have trees with long roots. Number 3. Liquefaction. process of liquefaction is more about the process of a solid piece of earth acting like a liquid and not necessarily transformed into a liquid. And events like an earthquake, the literal seismic shifting that is going on beneath your feet, literally causes the ground to lose cohesion. It'll stop acting like a solid, and instead it'll become a very warped liquid-like substance, which may make you think that there's water involved, but that's not the case at all. The 2011 earthquake that happened in Tokyo, Japan was a great example of this. Parts of the city, very far from the oceans, started to rise up and shift because of the change in state caused by the earthquake. Now, if you're curious, yes, liquefaction can be caused by water, but it's much more mysterious when it happens by earthquakes because it often throws people for a loop. Number 2, disappearing beaches. Disappearing beaches is sadly something of a common thing in the world nowadays. Climate change is a major reason for this, as the rising ocean levels mean that the waters of the world are getting higher up on the beaches. But that's not the only kind of vanishing beaches that you should worry about. In Australia in 2018, there was a beach in Queensland that literally went from being a whole beach to being none in record time. So much so that no one really understood what was going on at the beach and the area around it. So what caused it? Well, the construction of the beach itself, believe it or not. The waters have been eroding away at the earth and soil that made it up. Weathering occurs at different rates for many beaches, and in this case, the parameters were met for the earth to just collapse into the waters that led a rush of more water and creating an even bigger hole as more and more land eroded away. Beachgoers are now instructed not to go near that spot in case more erosion happens. Now, this is unlikely to happen to all beaches as each one is different in their own right, but it is something to look out for. Number 1, seismic fissures. If you were to hear the word seismic, your mind no doubt goes to earthquakes and things associated with it, which is totally fine for the record, but there is another aspect of this in the form of seismic fissures, which are literally just cracks in the earth that can happen at random times and in random places, like in 2005 when a 35-mile wide fissure opened up in Ethiopia. But while it may be seismic, this was not caused by an earthquake. In fact, some feel a volcano is to blame for this fissure opening up. Some even believe that this crack is just the first of many that will lead to a new ocean being made that will swallow the Red Sea and any land that is within its reach, like part of Ethiopia. This wasn't the only crack to open up though. Another happened in 2011 in Michigan, and that wasn't caused by an earthquake or a volcano, but apparently a massive and random upheaval of the earth below. Because of the random nature of these cracks, many think that these are just the first of many to come as the earth itself continues to change. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the earth itself and how there are certain spots that are almost too mysterious for words? Which of these places intrigued you the most? Which ones would you personally like to go see? Do you know of any other mysterious spots that could be on this list? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.